So, hello again. Now we'll be conducting our search in PubMed. So, first of all, we go to AUB website as a Saad Medical Libraries, go down to PubMed, we click on it. Then then before we conduct our search, let's talk about our scenario. So here we have a 28-year-old pregnant woman who is concerned about the use of antidepressants during pregnancy. She wants to know whether the exposure to SSRIs increase the risk of congenital malformations or birth defects in her baby. So the PICO questions here include the pregnant woman as our population, SSRI exposure during pregnancy as our exposure, and no SSRI exposure as the comparison, and congenital malformation or birth defects as our outcome. So our question here is a harm question because we are evaluating whether an exposure is associated with an increased risk to any adverse outcome. So the most appropriate study design here to answer our question are cohort studies and case control studies.
Okay, so to start first, we're gonna start with our first concept, which is pregnancy. So before doing that, we did a standard search where we put all the concepts together, but PubMed didn't give us the mesh terms for each concept. So we decided to go and search for each concept for its mesh term. So our first concept is pregnancy. So first we go to the mesh database, we searched for pregnancy, and we look at the mesh term, it's pregnancy. We look for the sub mesh tree. We want all of these sub meshes because they are of importance to us. We keep it exploded, so and we don't want to focus at this point. So we add it to the search builder. We found another mesh term which was pregnant, let's say. We found it was pregnant people, so we added it as well to our mesh terms, which was or. So we have two mesh terms, and we have the keywords of the mesh term, which we searched for them. So let's go ahead. So this was our mesh term search, the pregnancy and pregnant people, or pregnant people. So our keywords, this was our search for the keywords. So the keywords that we got from the mesh database search. So you can see we searched for each word within quotations, we ordered them. Here we can see we had pregnant woman or pregnant uh, women's, as it was stated. So, you know, we've added this too because there might be words that are pregnant, women that are pregnant, so on and so forth. So the same goes for here, woman with E, and pregnant with a star. It could be pregnant, pregnancy. Same goes for the gestation. It could be gestational, gestations, so on and so forth. So we did the same for the second concept, which is selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. We went to the mesh database, we searched for the mesh terms, which is this here on the screen. And then we looked up for the keywords, same as before, we searched for the keywords. So SSRI with a star, SSRIs, or the whole term here, inhibitor or inhibitors, so on and so forth. So those were the keywords for the second concept, selective serotonin inhibitors, and we ordered the keywords. So yeah.
So now, moving to the third concept, which is congenital abnormalities, we also looked into the mesh for mesh term for congenital abnormalities, and the keywords for the congenital abnormalities, which include also birth defects that can be used commonly, or fetal malformation, fetal abnormalities. We of course then we have ORed the mesh and the keywords for each concept. So it's OR for the pregnancy mesh and keywords, or for the second concept, which is SSRIs, mesh and keywords, and the same for the congenital abnormalities. And we did the AND for the three concepts together. Then, since it's an etiology question, it's a harm question, as we did in the beginning, we tried to narrow down our search or to filter it for the etiology, and we make it restricted, not a it's a narrow search. Since if it's a broad search, it's gonna be much more number of questions. This is how we did it in the beginning, and we repeat it right now. So instead of broad, we put it narrows, because in the broad we obtained 210 studies. However, here we had 108 results. So our search, we can say it retrieved around 108 articles. While like this is a manageable number, it's still too many to review in full. So the next step in any EBM process is to screen the titles, the abstract. So it's exclude studies that are not relevant to our clinical question, and then review the full text of the potentially eligible studies. Here we can see, for example, a potential study, which is a cohort study. That's the best design for our study. It targets the population of interest, the same outcomes, the same intervention as or exposure, let's say. So we would then critically appraise this selected study and to look into the internal validity, external validity, whether it matched our study. Finally, for course, we would integrate the best available evidence with our clinical expertise and the patient's value and preference to make the best informed evidence-based decision as any kind of clinical investigation we do in medicine. Thank you.